Okay, we're going to go over linear equations with multiplication and division. So let's look at the first example here. We have 5 times x equals 30. Okay, so our goal is similar to the other linear equations we've already looked at, which involved addition and subtraction. We want to isolate the variable. So our goals remain the same. In all kinds of linear, any sort of equation you see, your goal is going to be the same. And your goal is to isolate the variable. That's always your goal. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to box my variable as my visual cue. And I'm going to draw my wall. And I'm going to start to move things from one side of the wall to the other. Well, I said when I read this equation first, right in the beginning of this video, I said this said 5 times x equals 30. So whenever you have a number stuck to a variable like this, and what I mean by stuck is there's no operation between, right? It doesn't say 5 plus x, it doesn't say 5 minus x. It says 5 and nothing between it. I mean, obviously I just drew that box, disregard the box, but it's just 5x. So anytime you have a number stuck to a variable, this number is called the coefficient. Coefficient. Might have heard that before. This number is called the coefficient. So you have a number stuck to a variable, that means they're being multiplied. Okay? So 5 times x equals 30. So how do we get rid of 5 times x? Well, we need to think about what the inverse operation remember, we took the inverse to get rid of things. What is the inverse operation of 5 times x? Well, the inverse of 5 times anything, or times, is divide. So I'm going to divide by 5. Okay? And I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm going to divide by 5. So now what happens here? Well, what's 5 divided by 5? That's 1, right? Well, you might say, well, x is not isolated. There's a 1 there. But what happens if I multiply anything times 1? It just remains itself, right? 1 times 2, 2. 1 times 3, 3. So when you multiply something by 1, nothing happens to that number or that variable. So do you think x cares that there's a 1 next to it being multiplied by it? No. Makes no difference to x, right? So 1 is okay. So these end up becoming 1, and I can just kind of cancel them out. I don't have to write 1. It's implied there's a 1 there being multiplied by it. So I'm just left with x on this side. And then 30 divided by 5 is 6. We can check these like we checked the other ones. So we can plug in 6 for x. So 5, and instead of x, we can times 6 equals 30. Well, 5 times 6, does it equal 30? Yep. Is our equation balanced? Absolutely. So let's look at another example. All right. Let's read it. X, now you might be tempted to say x over 7, right? What we want to say is x divided by 7. So fraction bar means division. Okay, fraction bar means division. So x divided by 7 equals 21. All right, let's go ahead and box our variable, draw our wall. The reason why I have you do these visual things is because if you were ever in an anxiety state, if you're taking a quiz and you're feeling any sort of anxiety and you're kind of stuck, by doing these kind of visual cues, they'll activate your working memory. They're going to activate that memory that you have. Okay, so these actually work. All right, so we said x divided by 7 equals 21. So what's the inverse operation of x divided by 7? I'm going to let you think about that for a second. Hopefully you said multiply, right? Inverse operation of division is multiply. So we're going to multiply by 7. And whatever we do to one side, we're going to do to the other. So we're going to also multiply by 7 on this side. So what happens here? I'm just going to show you really quick. All right. 7 times x is what? 7x. All over. We can put a 1 over there. 1 times 7 is 7. Look familiar? Look familiar, right? So what happens? 7 divided by 7, well, you're just left with x, or 1x, but we don't have to write the 1. So we're just left with x, so x is happy. All right, now we have 21 times 7. 21 times 7 is 147. We check it, plugging it in. So 147 divided by 7 equals 21. Does it? 147 divided by 7? Sure does. Boom, I got it right. Okay, so this is how you tackle linear equations involving multiplication and division. All right, hopefully this made sense to you guys.